In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. This evening we want to affect a transition. Transition is from Plato, we want to transition from Plato to Aristotle. And what kind of, how do we classify Plato as a philosopher? What is his classification philosophically? Well, what is real? What is the really real for Plato? Forms. Very good. Yes. Don't start congratulating each other. It's still early in the game, you know. There's a lot more. There's a lot more, you know. And I'm telling you, you two need to separate. I feel like I'm in kindergarten. Okay. He's an idealist. Does that mean he's out of touch with reality?
I don't think so, but I think it means that he has a high standard that he views things with.
And those standards, what is the really real then? You just said it. The forms, the ideas. Hence, the forms, he has two basic components of the world. What are they? The forms are the eternal ideas, either one, same thing, of which the physical world. And the physical world is understood as what? In relation to the forms. Yes, they are copies. Huh? They are copies. Copies of this. But this is the really real here. With the form. This is imperfect, temporal, passing, finite, defective, and will eventually perish. They're not eternal. Okay, so these are the two components of reality. Now, in terms of the physical world, what kind of valence or value does Plato place on the physical world? What kind of value?
It's temporary.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. It's of, I'd say, just for the sake of it, it's of little value. Why?
Because it's temporary.
Okay, yes. It
and can be corrupted.
Yeah, that's right. As a copy, huh? And this is the real. It is, to a large extent, a world of representation or illusion, etc. And in fact, not only is it of little value, but it can even be looked upon as bad. As bad. How does Plato view the body? What does he say about the body in relation to the soul? What's the little expression I gave you last week?
It's a coffin for the soul.
Very good. It's the tomb of the soul. That's right. So the body is looked upon as a prison, a tomb. And the physical world actually is a hindrance to grasping what? Very good. The eternal forms. Because if you take out your paper that I gave you, which I know you prized and keep, in terms of knowledge, what is the lowest form of knowledge? No, that's not the lowest form. My goodness, that's the highest. Images. Huh? Images. It is appearance. And how do we get the appearances or the images? How do we obtain them? Through what?
Through sight.
Sight is what? Senses. Very good. Through the senses. Through the senses. But we know that senses are unreliable. Senses are very unreliable. They're unreliable not only in terms of physical appearance, but they're also unreliable in terms of what kind of person you're dealing with. Very unreliable. Knowledge in this world is unreliable. It's often illusory. It's often corrupted. And it's filled with all of the passions and prejudices and biases that come in that keep us from grasping the form. Therefore, he is an anti-materialist. Anti-materialist. Creation, everything in creation, including the human person, is conceived or brought forth by the demiurge in an evil or corrupted way. It's deficient. You're just born that way. Or Adam and Eve fashioned evil. Well, Adam and Eve fashioned evil. No. In fact, God says they're very good. You couldn't have a fall if there wasn't something to fall from, right? Okay, so he's anti-materialistic, and the created order is evil in that it's a hindrance. It's a hindrance to grasping this. This is powerful. This is powerful because the senses also activate the passions. That's why, in order to control this, one must practice what?
Temperance.
Well, what is temperance and all that? What is it?
Virtues.
The virtues. You must practice the virtues. Must practice the virtues, huh? The moral and intellectual virtues. And what are the four chief virtues? What's the first one? Prudence, without which you can't have any other virtue. Prudence, justice, fortitude, and the one we most lack, I suppose, temperance, especially today. Temperance. Temperance of balance. Those are the four cardinal virtues. Those are, the word cardinal or cadre means a hinge. It's a hinge. And you have a door. A door is affixed to a hinge so that it opens and closes. Cardinal virtues open and close on the kind of character and reveal the kind of character or hide the kind of character you really are. They bring forth or reveal. They also foster and strengthen. The word virtue from the Latin virtus means strength. It's a strength. It's also an acquired skill. It's an acquired skill. Now, therefore, learning or education, how does one How does one go about learning and education? How does one go about educating oneself or being educated? No, you're an Aristotelian. Sorry. No, of course not. That's exactly the opposite. How does Plato say it? We've gone over this many times. It involves what? How does education take place? Like this?
Being told.
Very good. Why question? Why? Very good. Word educate comes from the Latin meaning bringing forth. That's what it means. Out of, out from. Because for Plato, before you were born, you exist because you have an immortal soul. You already exist. Where do you exist before you have a body? Huh? Yeah, mind of God, you can say that. But okay. You're, huh? Yes, that's right. Yeah. So we can put God here. Or if you want supreme intellect, supreme mind, the fullness of mind, whatever you want. It's where all the forms are. Okay? The mind of the supreme intellect, supreme mind, whatever you want to call it. Take your pick. So call it God if you want. So that's where it is. However, what happens to your immortal soul if it enters this world? What happens to it? If it comes here, what happens?
You take a human form.
Yeah, you take a what?
A human form.
What you have a what?
Body.
You have a body. And the idea of being born produces what kind of condition in you? The fact that you're born, what happens? Where are you before? You're in the where?
In the ultimate form.
Yeah, you're in the mind of God. Then you're born. What happens?
You become corrupted. You're on your way to being decayed.
Huh? Very good. The waters of Aletheia. You forget. You forget. That's why knowledge is not putting in, it's drawing out. The word out from. Obviously, education is the turning of the tumblers, huh? It is kind of a pre-advertisement or anticipation of all of you who take Prevagen. That's what it is. So education is the process of memory. Process of memory. Because you already know it. But when you're born, you forget. Because you then, outside of the womb, the water burst. The baby comes forth. The baby has been swimming in the waters of Aletheia, the waters of truth. But now that's gone. And now you got this tomb, this prison, whatever you want to call it, body, and you forget. Hence, memory becomes the key through questioning so that you activate or stimulate the memory so that you can remember these things that you already knew. Yeah. Yeah. See? So that's there. See? And when you die or death, what happens? Very good. Which is fundamental Catholic teaching. Death is the separation of the soul and the body. So the soul returns to what? Yeah, has what? Which form? Yes, but what? What are the forms? What kind of soul is this? Yes, but what kind of species? Human. It returns to the form of man, Homo sapien. Now, it's not clear in Plato, really, whether or not you have personal, individual immortality, or whether or not you're absorbed back into the form, not with your individuality, because that itself may be cleansed and gotten away from, because that may be corrupted. And you can't have, why can't you have the body in the form? That's right. It's temporal, imperfect, it's corrupted, it dies, it's weak, it falls apart, etc. You cannot contaminate the form with the body. But the soul is immortal. Why is the soul immortal? What does the soul possess that the body doesn't? What is its composition? What is the composition of the soul?
It's not, it's spiritual.
It's spiritual. That's right, it's spiritual. What is the composition of the body? Material. So you can't possibly have the material in the immaterial, because that would be a corruption and contamination, which God, and then would not be eternal and perfect. You can see the ramifications, how divergent that is from Christianity, I hope, in something as profound and central as the incarnation. And by the way, as we get up there every Sunday and blab, and I don't even know if we think about it, resurrection of the body. Now, if the incarnation gets you, the idea of the resurrection of the body will really get you. The resurrection of the body. Now, that is the wackiest thing and the craziest thing that you could possibly think of. The resurrection of the body? You mean this thing's coming back? Why would I want that? If the body is the tomb of the soul, and freedom is to die so I can return back to this state, why, in God's name, or whatever, would I ever want to come back into that? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. It makes no sense. See? So there's a lot of difficulties there. However, the body, that physical body, is looked upon with a great deal of suspicion. It's corrupted, it's born flawed, it has its difficulties, especially its passions and desires. That's why you can see where St. Augustine would be very much attracted to a Platonist view of the body and the human person, and a very, very negative view of human sexuality. Why? Why? And, you know,
He didn't accept Catholic theology.
no. Why would Augustine? Okay, you say he wouldn't accept it. That's not actually a bad thing. Because how did Augustine start off? Whom did he first? Huh? Very good. Very good. Yeah. I tell you, Marie, my goodness, it's incredible. That's right, he's a Manichaean. Manichaean were radical dualists, like Plato. The body is evil, the material world is evil. There's only two realities, the spiritual and the material. Augustine was infatuated in the beginning with the Manichaeans. In fact, he became an archdeacon in the Manichaean religion before his conversion of hearing St. Ambrose preach. And his mother, she prayed. But let's be clear about Monica before we get too carried away here. Monica was the epitome of an ambitious mother. She drove him and pushed him. She wanted him always to be at the top, always. That was she. She was very, very, very much of a kind of Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, with her children. She suffered a lot, but she also, and that's something that Augustine fought his whole life. That and chastity was ambition. And one of the books that you really should read. You got Lent coming up. Put away all that foolishness about Lent and all this kind of stuff that you keep getting inundated with the spirituality of Lent and all of this. Oh Lord, please spare us that. Treat yourself to reading a true classic in spirituality, because and the danger with reading this, and the book should be X-rated for a lot of people, is that not only do you read this book, but it reads you. And a lot of people don't want that. So it's better to read. Jesus took my sins and he died and he rose and now I'm okay. God. Read it. It's a classic. The Confessions. What's the matter? Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. I mean, you don't want something to go through you like, supper through a Louisiana goose. You want it to kind of stay with you, and wrestle with it and fight with it. Yeah. Yeah. I knew that was a bad imagery, but anyway. The Confessions, over 1,500 years, never gone out of print. One of the regulars at morning mass got a copy and has been reading it. And it's not a book you get read. It's not one of those things. It's not a comic book, and it's not one of these little spiritual fervorinos and saccharine kind of stuff. No, it's not that at all. It is one of the classics of spirituality and spiritual reflection. And again, you don't have to read a page even. It's not the kind of book that is. Oh, I'm not making any progress with the book. You read a sentence or two and you're wrestling with it, that's progress. It's not that kind of book. See, people today, we get these things on computers and all of this and with the thing in it. And it's not a Cliff Note book. It's a very serious book. And Augustine famously says there, Lord, make me chaste, but not yet. And he fought his whole life with that, especially his one great temptation that he fought with was the circus, the arena, and all of the things that went on there, which was a great deal of debauchery, and the in the Colosseum there, and so on and so forth. This held an attraction for him for his whole life, and he had to really struggle with that. That was his thorn in the flesh. That. So he gravitated toward Plato because he believed in this the importance of the fall. Not necessarily all of this per se. He was a towering Catholic Christian by any stretch of the imagination. But he saw this as an important philosophy to ground Christian belief in the importance of reason, faith and reason. See? So this was very, very important. And hence, the material world, or this world, was really something to get through. It was something to endure. It required a lot of penance, a lot of struggle, self-denial, especially keep yourself in line with your passions and all of that sort of stuff. And he relied very much on St. Paul. St. Paul also, if you remember, in the biography of, kind of an autobiography worked in, really, for St. Paul, uh, in Romans. He talks about the thorn in the flesh. He never says what it is. He says 3 times I prayed that the Lord will deliver me from it. And 3 times the Lord said no. Nope, sorry, not going to get rid of it. Now think about that. How many times have you prayed to get delivered from something? And you didn't. Maybe the Lord's telling you, nope, I want to keep it. I want you to keep it. And Paul said he kept it there to keep me from boasting and becoming prideful. Because if I got rid of it, I'd go around thinking I'm better than everybody. I'm morally superior to everybody. And therefore I can judge everybody. And we know the types, don't we? We do. Sometimes, more sane moments, we even look in the mirror. But anyway, so we have those things. And the Lord says to him, no, my grace is sufficient enough for you. My grace is sufficient. My grace is sufficient. I could take it away. But the grace that you need is not the grace of removal, the grace of wrestling and struggling with this to keep you from, I know where you're going. I know where you're going to go. You're going to go run around thinking you're better than everybody. So every time you get that little temptation, I'm going to push you a little harder with this thorn to remind you, buddy, nope, ain't there yet. See, and that's important. People say, oh well, I'm struggling with this and I can't come. I don't know what to do, and so on and so forth. Maybe God knows that if He takes it away from you, you're really going to end up a mess. That's possible. Or maybe God wants you to carry the burden of somebody else who has a burden and they can't handle it. And if you offered it up for the people who have nobody to pray for them, are struggling for something that's really too much beyond their capacity, to offer that up, that prayer. It's a great ministry for those who are housebound, those who are invalids. Oh, I feel so out of it. No, you don't. You got your prayer book, your rosary, you got your Bible. So think of all the people that need your prayers. All the people that have nobody to pray for. Nobody. They can't go to church. They don't have anybody visit. Nobody there. They're isolated and everything. What a ministry that is. The ministry of witnessing. Those who have health home care. To be uplifted. To those who come to care for you. To be appreciative. To share. And to listen. What a tremendous witness of what it means to unite your sufferings with Christ. To not be complaining all the time. Not be woe is me all the time. But the ability to take that and to offer that up and unite that with Christ. You may be a tremendous witness to the nurse or the healthcare or even the doctor or whatever comes there. And, we don't know where it ends. We don't know where God takes it. We have no idea. But that's not important. It's not important that we know. What's important is that God knows. And so, Augustine, because of his flirtation, and more than flirtation, his actual marriage and joining with this. And Augustine, of course, had a son out of wedlock. He had a son out of wedlock, whom he baptized and became a very devout Christian, as his father on his deathbed, who was fiercely, fiercely anti-Christian, anti-religion. Oh my God. And even abused Monica and said, you take care of him. That's what you want, you do it. Don't involve me in this. And in fact, I'm against all this stuff. I mean, Monica had her own difficulties. One tradition said that she suffered from periods of alcoholism and so on, from treatment and all the things that she did to put up with that family and to live that, so on and so forth like that. But all of that, in retrospect, was a kind of preparation for what would take place. I mean, Monica is a saint. Augustine is one of the greatest saints in the history of Christianity and of Western civilization, I might add. But he had this Platonic view. Again, not completely, but of various aspects here. And take us too far afield to go into his concept of epistemology and knowledge and learning and so on and so forth. But this gives you some idea. This is kind of Plato's, of which Aristotle, as you know, was a student of Plato, was a student of Plato. Plato had the academy, what some call, accurately or not, a kind of first Western university kind of place, the Academia, and meaning an olive grove where the students would meet with him and they would discuss things, questions and answers back and forth and so on and so forth. And Aristotle was one, and Aristotle was really the brightest bulb in the room, as you might expect, or at least under the olive tree. And he expected to take over when Plato died, but it didn't happen. One of Plato's relatives took over. And Aristotle always had trouble intellectually, philosophically. He disagreed with Plato on this kind of idealism, etc., about the world, etc. Aristotle is a philosophical realist. By realist, I mean, number one, objects are real, they exist, and we can gain knowledge from them. We can gain knowledge from them in and of themselves, etc. They're not illusions, they're not copies, they're not imitations. They're real in and of themselves. And there's no forms up there somewhere floating around in some mind of God and all this other sort of stuff. No. And he begins by saying something very important. Because Thomas Aquinas is Aristotle's boy. All knowledge begins in the senses. Now, I think even an amoeba can see that if you want anything more opposite of Plato, that's it. All knowledge begins in the senses. Plato would say that's the cause of all the ignorance and problem. But the reason for highlighting begins, I didn't say, and Aristotle didn't say it ends in the senses. I mean, Aristotle is, in some opinion, the greatest of the West philosophers, certainly of the ancient philosophers. Now, I understand Whitehead says that all of Western philosophy is but a footnote to Plato. Well, okay. But all knowledge begins in the senses. He's an empiricist. What is an empiricist? What is empirical data, evidence? It's what? What's the word up there? Where do you get it from? How do you get empirical data? From the senses, yes. Yeah. It begins from the senses. It begins. Does Aristotle think that the senses don't make mistakes? Of course not. Of course not. That's why the operative word is begins. That's how you get. That's how you get knowledge. That's how you get some understanding. That's how you get the basic stuff that you start working with is through the senses. Can you be wrong? Yes. You're looking for somebody and you see them across the distance there, and you say, "Oh, there's Shirley." And as it gets closer, you realize it's Ralph. Huh? You're in California. Well, because you're in California, you don't, which probably wouldn't matter. But anyway, um, okay. Well, you didn't lie. You didn't lie. You made a mistake. Uh, you take a pencil or not. You put it in a glass of water, and if it reflects a certain way, it looks like the pencil's broke. Huh? Dun, dun. Are you seeing that? Yes. Yes, I'm seeing that. Okay. And when you lift it up, oh, look, the pencil's back together again. No. Was the pencil ever truly like it appeared to you in this glass? No, it was not. It was not. It never was objectively. That's why people say, well, perception is reality. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Aristotle would say, you got to be kidding. You, well, if that's my perspective, or that's the way I see it, so it must be real. It is subjectively real and objectively no. Do I think you're lying about how you feel? No, I don't. I don't think you're lying. I have no reason to believe that. Do I believe that you telling me something that you saw, etc.? Um, okay, I'll take your word for it. I mean, you don't appear to be incapacitated or something wrong. Yeah, okay, I'll go along with it. Okay. But you do realize now, do I believe that you saw the oasis in the desert? Yes, the mirage. Yeah, yeah, like the pencil in the thing. I believe you saw it. But when you get over there, you can't drink the sand because there's no water. But did you see it? Yes. Are you telling the truth? Yes, at a subjective level. Did it exist objectively? No, no, it doesn't exist objectively. See? Uh, so he's an empiricist, but he says, begin with perception. Don't all of you begin some kind of knowledge with perception? Uh, can I, Jim, can I borrow your Coke? And he gives me this. Give me this. Oh, you need Prevagen. Yeah, of course not. I'm looking at that. Now, if he hands me the pen, there's something wrong. Okay? I am perceiving that. That is a Coke. That's a can of Coke. He hands me his pen. Okay? Obviously, there is a disconnect or miscommunication there. Maybe he didn't hear me. Maybe he misunderstood what I said. I may have mumbled my words. That's possible, etc. Maybe he's ignorant of what a can of Coke is, although he's slurping it down, and so on and so forth like that. So I guess if I ask him, could you hand me your pen, he'd hand me the Coke, maybe. I don't know. At least it makes some sense there. So the first thing is perception. But perceptions can be terribly wrong. They're not infallible. That's all I'm saying. We understand that. On the basis of perception, you have to make a judgment. Many of the perceptions and judgments we don't waste time even thinking about, do we? They're automatic. My car's back there. Could you back up? Well, we don't even think about that. Backs up. Okay. I had the perception. There's my car. I don't go through all of this. This is automatic. Yes. Oh, yeah. There's my car there. We went a little bit past. Could you back up? First thing. Oh, okay. Boom, boom. Backed up. Everything. Perception, judgment. What judgment do I make? The person under. And again, I don't go through this like I'm going through it. Okay. There's the perception. I perceive what the person was talking about. The person backs up to where my car is. I make the judgment that the person is correct. That is my car. The person understood, etc., and so on and so forth. I get out of the car and go to my car. The perception, the judgment, the action. I have to make judgment too. I get out of the car that Marie has backed up to, my car. I get over there to the car and I go, oh, this is not my car. What happened? It's the same color car. It's the same color car. Again, I'm not lying or fooling around. My perception was faulty. But I only found out by making a judgment that, yes, that's my car. Okay. But even the judgment can be faulty. Because again, my perception at the beginning and my action then validated that it was wrong. So I make a judgment that I have to adjust what? I have to readjust my perception. I come over and I look, and instead of a Toyota, it's a Honda, whatever, doesn't matter. But it's the same color, and it looks somewhat alike. It's one of these god awful box cans that people drive around in. So it's one of those. So I say, oh, no, oh, geez, and maybe a car or two down, there's your car. Well, how do I know? I go over to the car, I look at the car, I take the key, I shove it in there, I turn it, it opens the door, I sit in, and I see around me a book that I left there, and so on and so forth. So now it has been validated. It's been validated on the basis of it. But we don't do all that. We don't go through it like I'm analytically going through it. We do it like that. We make those things, etc. Now, if the judgment is validated, if it's validated over a period of time enough, etc., and in the realm of science, I form a hypothesis. A hypothesis is a sophisticated guess, but it's a guess on the basis of past performance, of which you want to know how many times has this occurred. So you want to know your sample, and then you want to give it to an audience that has a specialty in whatever area of science it is. If you're looking at zoology, you don't want to give it to a psychiatrist. That doesn't make sense. You want to have what's called peer review. You give it to your peers. And what do? Yes, they test by repetition. And then you want to know what results. Now, did they have a standard deviation? The bell curve, huh? So what is the standard deviation? You see that all the time with these things on television that are advertised. You take this pill, you take that pill. 98% of the people, it's fine. But there's 2% that experience nausea or some dizziness, or they have an adverse reaction, or even a negative positive, false positive, etc. That happens. Okay? Now, plus there's a whole bunch of other factors. Are you on some other kind of medication? Do you have some other kind of condition? All of these things come into play. See? So you have to look at the standard deviation from the mean or the norm, whatever it is. You know, for example, especially if you're doing social science research, that if you have a correlation of 1 to 1, it's very suspect. It's very suspect when you're dealing with human beings. To have 100% correlation, there's something wrong usually. There's usually a deviation of some degree within the curve itself, etc. Now, if you're dealing with the hard sciences, etc., you want this kind of correlation, and you want a large sample of people in various places. And if they have a deviation from your results, your hypothesis, you have to then go look and see what did they do to get the deviation. Was the atmosphere different? Were the ingredients different? Did they do some small little thing that would have influenced the outcome in some particular way? In other words, what was the degree of control of the experiment that was being done? We talk about a control setting. We talk about a control population, of which a lot of people go to prisons and stuff like that to get a population that you have controlled so that you have a greater degree of behavior to performance, etc. One of the most difficult things about dealing with street people, especially if you're trying to get them medicine and so on and so forth, and a lot of it, especially pharmacology that deals with the psychiatric or the psychological, is it has to be taken at a certain time, a certain amount, and so on and so forth. You have to do certain things. And most of the people on the street are not used to living by regularity or schedule because that's how their life is. And some of them are already mentally impaired. So the idea of time and schedule and so on and so forth is very difficult. So you try to get a controlled population in order to do your test, etc. And if you have a number of failures, the scientist looks upon that as a gain because it's now all of the other things you don't have to fool with. All of the unknowns, big word for unknown. The variables. But now I can eliminate 5 or 6 of these things. I don't have to fool with that anymore. Now, what are some of these other variables? So it narrows the field. So failure is actually a step forward in the scientific method of testing a hypothesis. Because your hypothesis is not simply what happened, but why? What were the contributing factors to this? What were the key ingredients, the key elements, etc.? So the variables. So your results have to be tested. And if it gains enough validation and it begins to be accepted in the community of the scientific community, etc., and so on and so forth, we can talk about it as a law, as something that will indeed deliver what it says, and so on and so forth like that. But notice this takes place constantly with dealing with materiality, material stuff that yields knowledge. Real knowledge. Knowledge that you can live, plan your life, increase the quality of life, etc. See, you can get it. Plato would say, no, no, this is so no, this is all shadow stuff, copies, etc. And really, this is not really knowledge per se, because you're not really interested in this. What you really want to know is the first principles and all these other sort of things up here somewhere, you know. And Aristotle says, no, no, this is very important. This is important. This world yields knowledge. All knowledge begins in the senses. But right before that, he says, all men by nature desire to know. We want to know. We are a being that hungers and thirsts for knowledge. Most of us want to know rather than to be ignorant. Most of us want to be told the truth rather than a lie. Most of us want to live in reality rather than illusion. Most of us want to live with fact and not superstition. We want that in order to plan our life, the life of others that may be under our care. We want to improve that part of the world that we touch, etc., not simply for ourselves, but for others. And so we seek knowledge. We seek knowledge. We are born desiring knowledge, which begins in the senses, which means we have to engage this world. And the world, the material world, is knowable. And it's not knowable because we already knew it. It's knowable because we gain it through experiment, sense data, testing. In other words, we engage this world in order to get knowledge. And we learn by experience. We learn, not simply from memory, but we are taught. Let's say Roy here is an expert or is a certified mechanic. Certified mechanic. I know nothing about cars, let's say. And my car gets messed up. It doesn't run or something. So I say, could you come look at my car? I don't know why. So Roy comes over and looks at it, and he says, oh, I see the problem. Well, I want to ask him, what was the problem? Well, so number one, I don't have to call him and disturb him again. Also, I might be able to avoid it because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I don't have to get some kind of expert to come in that I'm not sure anything about. He's telling me that this needs to be done and that needs to be done. And by the way, it's $150. I have no idea if that's true, false, whatever, but I have to pay it because I need my car. So I'm pretty much at the mercy of this person. That's why we say, do you have somebody you could recommend? Somebody. Because we don't want to pick a pig in the poke. Huh? So Roy says, oh, well, it's this particular wire that became detached. And they have a history of doing that because of the way it's here with the car. All of that. Okay, so then from now on, if the car's kind of ticking or doing this, stop. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go under the hood and I'm going to check that. It may not be that. It may not be that. But my experience now with this is that. And maybe I have to call Roy again. Roy comes over and says, no, uh, it's this thing that became detached and so on. So now I'm going to ask him some more about what do I need to check? What are some checkpoints that I need to do? I don't know it, but he does. So he teaches me and he shows me. And he says, here, you do it. Here, and he takes the thing off. He disables the car. He says, now, come on, you get it going. Car won't start. Go start the car. Start the car, it won't start. Okay, it won't start. Now, no, you got to put it in this way and come over the top of it and put it in the back there, not force it in here. Okay, so I do that, go in the car, turn it, it starts up. Starts up. So that has been validated by my experience. He's telling me about it. I have it validated, etc. So my knowledge is now expanding. It's expanding. I may be able to help somebody else, and so on and so forth like this. Okay. So the world is knowable, but it's not knowable because I knew it already. Because I am, when I am born, a tabula rasa. Huh? A blank slate. That's what I am. I'm a blank slate. And Aristotle's philosophy of realism will become the major philosophy in modern philosophy with John Locke, who greatly influenced the founders of this country in formulating their philosophical foundation for the Constitution and the building of the Republic. John Locke, Berkeley, and Hume. Now, Hume, unfortunately, Hume takes this and ends in skepticism, but that will take us too far afield. But anyway, that's not the point. Here, you have knowledge, pre-existing. You just forgot it, but it's already there. It's already there. It just has to be released through questions in order to get you, because remember that Plato is a student of whom? Socrates. Socrates' whole method, the Socratic method is that. Okay. In order that this can come to consciousness. This is unconscious, but it's by the questions that it comes to consciousness. Here, you're a tabula rasa. It is through experience, as Locke says, that you begin to get ideas. Ideas. Ideas are the imprint of experience upon the blank slate, which is your mind. It does come from the outside in. This comes from the inside out. Did everyone see that? That's fairly simple. It's simple. Okay, huh? Well, I mean, it's simple, huh? You do that every day. You gain knowledge by experience, huh? And then you may come to something and say, oh, wow, that just came to me. Plato would say, yeah, sure it did, because it was already there. So you see, so which one, this or this? Once again, if we can avoid either or thinking, we might get a greater understanding of the complexity, because you realize these things are not taking place like I'm doing them. These things are like this. The micro fragments of a second. This is what we do. We process like this. And in the world in which we live today, in which we are saturated sensually, we can become overwhelmed. And many people are today. That's the thing. You're asked to process all of these things. Look at the things that bombard you every day from the outside. From the time you get up in the morning, some people wake up with the radio on, or whatever the thing is, and they're being hit already. Then they got to have the TV on to find out if the world is still there. And unfortunately it is. But okay, it's there. Then you have to ride to work with the radio on, find out where the traffic is, or whatever you got into that cassette. So I don't know. Then you get to the office, and you're inundated then, and you got all of this. Then you go home, and it's overload. And that's why you see people now with what sociologists call a countervailing trend. People more and more talking about the importance of meditation and contemplation, the idea of retreats, the idea of being more driving than driven, because too many people collapse at the end of the day because they're driven without driving, and they collapse there. And then you have all these people who they got to take care of the children, they got to take care of the house, they got 2 jobs, they got 3 jobs, they're running all over the place, and it's overwhelming because again, we don't question our priorities. Our priorities. Well, they have to go to this fine school. You got a school right down the block. This is good. No, they got to go to that school. Why? Because the stupid neighbor across the street, when she's over there with all the ladies crowing away, and blabbing about everybody, I have to say my children are in that school. So and for vacation. Well, we can't go to I don't know, the Gulf Coast. Oh no, we got to go to some crazy faraway place. The sun is the same. Huh? Sun is the same. We can't stay in the Red Roof Inn. We got to stay in the Four Seasons. A dark room is a dark room. It's cheaper, but it's a dark room. It's a dark room. Trust me on that. You know, or something as goofy as a wristwatch. $25,000-$30,000 for a watch. John Cameron Swayze had a Timex. It was about $15-$16. What time is it, John? 10:15. What time is it there, Bellagio? 10:15. How much is your watch? 40,000. How much is yours? $15. Impossible. It's nuts. It's nuts. A car. But think about it. A car. You have a nice little Toyota, Corolla, or your Honda Civic, or whatever you have. I realize nobody has those anymore because you have to ride around in a big box. I understand that. Crazy. Crazy. One person behind the whole thing, big gigantic. Gotta set up high, I have room. I don't see that. Wow. Oh, okay, fine. Car's almost 7 figures, and you can buy a house for the car. Used to be able to buy a house for the car that I'm driving, but it's okay. I got the car there, and so on and so forth. And I got to bring it in for maintenance and upkeep and all of this kind of stuff. I have it, but now it's like a child. I got to take care of the stupid thing. Okay, when it breaks, God only knows, because they put gadgets in there for them to break. They do. Everything is electric. I always ask them, do you have a window that you just touch? And they look at me, huh? What? A window that you do this. No. I've never seen. What? Huh? No, but because when you do this and this, and you know what? It always does it when it rains. It knows. It's programmed. I'm telling you. It always honks out when the window is down. Is down. They know. They know some kind of way. I don't know how, but it's programmed in there. I'm telling you. It's like the windshield wiper go down. Yes. It's not work when you need it. That's right. Yeah. And when you don't need it, it's going like this, like it's crazy. You can't see. You like a bobblehead on the back of the car. And no. And there the person with their little Civic goes, boom, 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 boom. And you look at it and you say, but my big tank, it's not moving. No, because all of your gadgets have turned on you. They know. They're all synchronized to do this to you. And there's the little Honda and Civic putting along right past you going, oh, good luck. Call AAA. AAA has a lot to do with this. When they go to check your car, they don't. They fix it. They put those little things in there. And if you think I'm paranoid, remember, sometimes they are out to get you, okay? So, but anyway, this is the thing. This is the separation between the two. Simply put, I realize that. It's kind of gloss over. But it'll give you something to further pursue. if you're interested in. And I'm going to go further, much further into Aristotle. We're going to go into that right now. But St. Thomas Aquinas says, all knowledge begins in the senses. All knowledge begins in the senses. He is clearly, he follows the philosopher, Aristotle. And he believes that the world, because he believes that creation is not this wicked bad thing, but it's a beautiful thing that yields knowledge, and that we can understand it, we can understand its principles, its laws, that we can live a better life, and ultimately give praise and glory to God. Because the more and more we find out about nature, the more and more we find out the wisdom and the beauty of God. Very different perspective than Plato and Augustine. Very different. The world is fallen, it's imperfect, it's this and that. Not for Aquinas and Aristotle. It's waiting to be, it's waiting to be discovered. And it wants to be discovered. It's discoverable. God made it that way so that you can know more about it. And the more you know about it, the more you see what Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, great Jesuit paleontologist of the 20th century, suffered a great deal, again, from the church. Not surprising. Great deal. His beautiful phenomenon of man and the divine milieu. Just one of the great scientists, one of the chief paleontologists who really developed and so on the understanding of Peking man back at the beginning of the 20th century, and was key in our development of the human down through history, etc. And ranks right up there with Louis S.B. Leakey, great Jesuit priest. And of course, all the ninnies in the Vatican were very, very upset and worried and everything else that he was advancing Darwinian evolution and so on and so forth like this, mainly because their knowledge of science and what he was doing was about the size of a thimble on a newborn. But, again, there's nothing more frightening than ignorance in action. But anyway, so you have this kind of thing there. And Thomas very much believed, because Thomas believed in the sacramentality of creation, that God created everything and everything contained grace, and by everything that is material, it holds the possibility of revealing God. Everything. For Augustine and for Plato, just the opposite. Just the opposite. Okay. Now, I'm supposed to be able to turn this, but I can't. It doesn't matter. I'll just erase this. No, it's all right. That's not at all exercise. I'll just do this. It's not a problem. I'm back to the. I remember all the bad kids having to do this after school. You can see how what an amateur I am, never having done this. You understand? Never had to clean the board. No, I had to kneel on rice. That's how I got COVID. Anyway, nevertheless, want to talk about this. We want to talk about Aristotle's years 384 to 322 BC. And it's mainly in the metaphysics, his work, Metaphysics. I want to talk about his epistemology. Epistemology is the philosophy of knowledge. Episteme, knowledge, study of knowledge. We talked about Plato's understanding of knowledge, how you get knowledge, how it develops, and so on and so forth like this. But now we want to do a little more detail into the understanding of Aristotle. as a realist and a philosopher. Um, Aristotle says that knowledge has, number one, preliminary. There are three aspects of preliminary knowledge, according to Aristotle, which you have to have. And you'll see to some extent the influence of Plato. Three things: logic, rhetoric, and poetics. These are the preliminary uses of knowledge: logic, rhetoric, and poetics. Logic is used for the language of proof, rhetoric is for persuasion, and poetics is for beauty. And Aristotle's logic is, I used to teach that all the time, as a full class. It was just one of the most important things, especially in the seminary, uh, where you have to learn to think and think logically, and so on like this. But Aristotle's work on logic and on rhetoric and things like that. Logic is, again, the use of language for proving. Uh, Rhetoric is for persuasion, and poetics is for the grasping of beauty. Now, for Aristotle, there are three types of knowledge. Number one is theoretical knowledge. Theoretical knowledge is the knowledge simply for the sake of knowledge. It's the pleasure of knowing for the sake of knowing, of gaining knowledge. You're not using it for anything, you're not gaining anything, nothing like that. You simply want to learn about something. And maybe you've had that experience going into Barnes and Noble or someplace like that, if it's still operating, I don't know. And you come across, or you're passing a book that's there out, etc. You say, oh, I've always wanted to learn something about that, whatever it is. I have no idea. I wanted to learn something about butterflies. And there's a book there on it. And so you pick it up and say, oh, this looks interesting. I really want to know something about this. You're doing it not because you're going to go around catching butterflies or any of this other. You want to find out about it. You're fascinated by the butterfly, their beauty, their whatever it is. Okay. So that's theoretical knowledge. I want to learn something about the cosmos. I want to learn something about this subject or that, whatever. The second is physics or natural philosophy. You want to learn about the natural world. This is physics or the natural world: chemistry, biology, botany, zoology, anthropology. Uh, so that's that's a subset of theoretical knowledge, physics. Then second is mathematics. You want to learn something about mathematics, which is a higher level of abstraction, and about numbers and their relationship and so on. And the third, ABC, the third is metaphysics, in which you learn the fundamental principles, the universal laws that govern reality. You learn the principles of electricity, the combustible engine, so on and so forth. Why does it work? Not simply how, not simply that it does, but you understand why. What are the principles? That's metaphysical knowledge. You come in the room. Of course, we're on the wrong side of the room, but it's okay. That's Betty again. But anyway, let's say that there's a light. Yes, Betty, it is you. Let's say there's a light switch here. Yes, you're being blamed for this. That's all right. No, it's fine. We have a light switch here. Pretend we don't, unless you see it, and then we have to go back to see how. Well, we don't. It's gone. See? And so somebody says, "Could you turn on some light here?" Boom, there's the light. I have rudimentary know-how. Huh? I have rudimentary know-how. I can get a child to do that. Flip that switch, something like that. Okay, well, we better turn the lights out. We're leaving. Okay, is that knowledge? Yeah, it's knowledge. Yeah, I mean, I can go over here looking to turn out the light. So I have some understanding, some level of understanding. Now, the light begins to flicker. I turned it on, begins to flicker. Roy's not here, of course. He's out. He's out with Sandy, watching the hockey game. That's what Sandy's doing. All this other stuff about he's running here to see the daughter and all that. He's got more children than anybody I've ever seen. I mean, I'm telling you, he's got more children than Mother Goose. It's incredible. But okay, I don't know. Maybe so. I doubt it. But okay. So we're standing out there looking at it, and it's flickering and doing this like that. And I say, well, maybe we need maybe it needs to be changed. The light needs to be changed. Could be. So at least I have some idea that the thing is not working properly, etc. And maybe that's the most obvious thing to me at my level. Okay, so we get up there and we fool with it, and somehow it gets down. We put a new one in. Of course, we turn this off, and we're fooling with it. We get it in, flip it back on, and it's still flickering around. Okay, so we know that's not it. At least we don't think that's it, unless I put it in wrong. But it seems to be all right. It's lighting, but it's still doing that. Well, now I'm really stuck, because that's as much as I know. But Roy decides, because he's guilt-ridden, to show up here, okay, being a good Catholic. He's overwhelmed with guilt. And besides, America's getting killed by Canada, and he doesn't want to watch it because he's a good Trumpite. Okay, fine. So he comes here, and he looks at it, and he says, it's up there. Says, see this? This has become disconnected, and therefore it's not making the connection, and this looks worn out here, and so on. And without that, you can't get the connection. Goes through all of this kind of stuff. Well, his knowledge is so far superior. Not only does he know where the switch is, not only does he know what to do with it, not only does he know how to fix even a brand new thing, because his knowledge is much deeper. He not only simply knows how, he now has the knowledge necessary, because he knows why, to fix it on a level that simple know-how can't solve. I know how to turn on a car, but if you ask me how to handle something under the motor or this or that, I'm useless. I'm useless. You have to. I wanna, but I can't, because I don't know it, etc. But I know how to start it. I know where the key goes, and I can do that. But when it doesn't start, I'm stuck, because that's the limitation of my knowledge. That's my defect. So I have to ask him to come, get off the ladder, and come look at my car. See? And God, he came back. Huh? Jesus. I'd be in the dark, stuck here. Then the wonderful nights would come in and probably throw me out. But anyway, got to stop picking on the nights. But okay. So metaphysical is that kind of knowledge. So those are the three types of knowledge. Now, there's also theoretical knowledge is the first, of which the physical, metaphysical, mathematics and metaphysical are the three sub-branches under theoretical. Then the second level is that of the practical. Practical knowledge is know-how, what I've been explaining. It's results-oriented. Practical is know-how. And there's three areas that Aristotle discusses: ethics, politics, and economics. So the practical is know-how. And it deals with ends and purposes. And the third is productive. And this is techne. techne, as opposed to episteme. Techne, from which we get the word technology, is how. Episteme is why, or what for. In other words, the end or the telos, the purpose, the purpose. I can know how to do something, but have no idea why I'm doing it. I come along and I say, Roy, can I help you with the car? And Roy says, yeah. I want you to hold the screw right here on this thing as I start this and tighten it up. Just hold it. Just don't let it move from there. I have no idea why I'm doing this. No idea. But I do know I'm following it, and I am doing it as he told me to do it. And sure enough, the car starts. But I don't know. I don't know why. I do know how, but I only know how because I didn't even have that until he told me. Do this and hold it there because I can't do here and because I have to go start the car. And there's only the two of us. And somebody comes over and says, why are you doing that? He told me to. He told me to. Okay. But even there, I have some rudimentary knowledge. I understand what hold it there means. I understand what a screwdriver is. I understand what he means by holding it here and not letting. I have to have some knowledge to even begin. But do I have his knowledge? Absolutely not. I don't know why, really. I know this how only because it's like robotic. And I certainly don't know why, in the sense of what difference does this make in terms of its principles and understanding, etc. What I do know is it works. The car starts. Okay. Techne, from which we get technology, is know-how. Episteme is a much deeper knowledge because this has to do with its purpose in terms of its end or telos. This is absolutely crucial. This is the most crucial question you can ask. Most crucial. I want to emphasize that 1,000 times. In ethics. In ethics. Why? Because ethics ultimately deals with means and above all, telos, the end. The end. According to Aquinas, the end of something is that which is sought in itself. Everything else is a means. Everything else is a means. This alone is never, this is never a means. The end is never a means. It is in itself. This is always used to arrive at or achieve the end of the goal. The end of the goal. This is fundamental for ethics. Therefore, well, let me back up one step. there are acts of man and human acts. Acts of man and human acts. The acts of man are acts that we share with every other animal. Do you get hungry at times? Do you eat? Animals eat. Do you get tired? Like right now? And do you go to bed and sleep and hopefully? Yeah, and we all do that. These are the acts that we share with other animality because we are Homo sapiens. But we are, as Aristotle says, the rational animal. We are rationality plus animality because we share it with them. We suffer, we experience pain, we die, we grow, we age, we do all of those things with animals. But we share that. Human acts are different. Human acts are those acts that involve intellect and free will, knowledge and choice, among a multiplicity of choices. That's what separates the acts of man as a species from human acts, which differentiate us from the pure animality world. Pure animality world. And because we have this intellect, knowledge, free will, and choice, etc., we have, bless you, we have responsibility as to acts are good or bad. Father Flanagan said there's no such thing as a bad boy. Well, we won't go into that.
As a bad what?
Boy, Father Flanagan said that's his famous saying from Georgetown. You never seen Spencer Tracy?
Yes,
My goodness, you must live a sheltered life, dude. Come out of that book and making millions out there, down there in Belchase. Off poor people, but okay. But there is no such thing as a bad animal. That makes no sense. That's a bad dog. No, it's not. It's got a rotten owner. It's got a rotten owner. But the dog is not bad. The dog is not evil. The dog is not good. The dog is. That's right. The dog is. That's a bad dog. Have you looked at the owner? That, dog attacks somebody and they kill the dog. Well, we won't go that far. But anyway, you get the idea. We attribute this, good and bad, to the responsibility on the basis of this. Because we have this. Hence, there is no such thing as an insignificant human act. There is no such thing as a trivial human act. There is no such thing as a meaningless act. I don't care what it is. Writing something down is not a meaningless act. Closing a book is not a meaningless act. Because every human act is directed towards some good, some good. We do not directly choose to act against the good. We do not purposefully act against the good. Now that'll get you crazy. Why is that? Why is that? Why? Why? You make bad decisions. Give me an example, Daddy, please. Just give me an example, a little simple example, a little baby example. Huh? Okay, you drive a car without a license. Okay, well let's stick with one. Yeah, doesn't matter. Either one. Okay. Say that's a bad act. And the person chose to do that. Okay. And you say that the person, now if you ask the person, why did you do that? You forgot. Okay. Oh.
Are you talking about your license now?
Okay, you seatbelt. Okay, you don't like it. It's choking you. It's yeah. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Now, did she directly choose the evil, the bad? Did she directly choose the bad? Did you? No, you didn't. That's right. You didn't. You perceived a different good. You didn't. You didn't. Yes, exactly. Okay. That's great. No, that's fine. That's what I'm saying. What appears to be a choosing of an evil is the choosing of a different good. I take this thing that's a syringe and it's filled with heroin. And we all go, ooh, ooh, ooh. And I take it and shove it in my arm and I shoot it in there. And you say, oh, that's bad. I say, oh, man, you crazy. I love this. This is great. Ooh, Lord. What am I doing? I don't see that as a bad. I see it as a good. Look how high I am. And you know what? It don't matter to me because you don't bother me. You know? So I don't care what you say. I'm going to take another one. Okay. In other words, did Adam and Eve choose the evil? Did they choose the evil in the Garden of Eden? No. What did they do? Why? Why? Huh? It looked good. And they wanted to eat it. That's why Aristotle says, no, you're on to it. There are real and apparent goods, long and short-term goods. What time is it, Dan? People are getting antsy. Huh? Oh, you got time. Well, we can go now if you want. You all want to go? Because I can stop at this minute. Okay. You got a long and short-term good. A real good is that which is really good for you in terms of achieving that which is really good in terms of enhancing you as a human being. Then there are apparent goods. The apparent good of the food there, and you overeat. Is the food good? Yes. Yes. Did you say, I'm going to eat this so I can get sick? Of course you didn't. You looked at it and saw that it was good. And you ate it for what? For the pleasure, which is a good. But it's a misplaced good. It's an apparent good. Because in this situation, under these circumstances, it's not good. You can have short-term goods. Nothing wrong with it. But do you sacrifice them for a long-term good? Again, study. You study. And you sacrifice a number of short-term things. You're not going to the beach. You're not going to the show. You're not going to watch the game or something like this because you got a big test tomorrow. Okay. The game will be over. Whatever happens, happens, and da-da-da-da-da. But this test determines maybe some very important step in your career or whether you pass and go on. That's a greater long-term good. What's immediate? Child wants the immediate good. That's infantile. We understand that. That's why it's infantile behavior. Now, infantile behavior is not subject to chronology. Huh? It's subject to character. Because you have a lot of infantiles and infants running around in cars and other places. Sometimes even getting in pulpits. But anyway, so you have this. Real good, apparent goods, long and short-term goods. See? That's why you have to introduce what important concept in order to get the real good that's long-term. Huh? What is temperance? No. Temperance is part of what category?
Of the virtues.
Wonderful. Yes. Virtues. Yes, the cardinal virtues. The virtue. You got to have the virtues. To know what is really good. Hence, you need truth. And you have to make the free choice to do that, which involves the will, which means you have to have courage, fortitude. You have to have courage. You have to have courage to choose the short-term good over the long-term good. Please understand, I did not say that the short-term good is bad. I said in terms of what your goal is or your aim, the long-term good is more permanent, more lasting, more consequential. It's more consequential. Does it mean that you would not have a good time watching the game? No, you would. Oh, you'd have a good time. Your team won, and da-da-da-da. But now the stark reality comes in. Huh? You know, it's the morning after the night before. Did you have a good time at the party? Yes, too good. Now you have a hangover or whatever. Something like that. Or you did something that you're ashamed of or embarrassed over. Let's put it that way. Okay. Doesn't take away from the fact that you had a good time. But now the consequences are people are now talking about what you did. Huh? You put the lampshade on your head. Or worse, you put it on, well, never mind. So you have those things. So these are real, apparent, long, and short-term goods. And you need the virtues in order to guide you. This is where Aquinas steps into the fray. The telos, or the goal, the end, for Aristotle means the ultimate end. The ultimate end for Aristotle is to lead a fully realized human life. And to do so, you then can declare yourself happy. Happiness is the ultimate goal for Aristotle in seeking a fully human life. He begins the Nicomachean Ethics, one of the greatest books, if not the greatest book written on ethics. You should read that book. Nicomachean, Aristotle's son was named Nicomacheus. Never gone out of print for good reason. It's brilliant. And Nicomacheus was Aristotle's son, and this was Aristotle's notes on ethics that he developed for his son and for his students at the Lyceum. So these are classroom notes, etc., put together in book form by his students and so on and so forth. Classic work in ethics. Classic works. Read Nicomachean Ethics, you'll be well served. Let's put it that way. Okay. So for Aristotle, the telos, or the end, is happiness. And Aristotle says in the Ethics, all men by nature seek to be happy. All men by nature seek to be happy. I think that's one of those self-evident truths. Nobody. Now, again, let's keep it, not crazy. We're not talking about it this third person and all this other sort of stuff. Nobody seeks to be unhappy. We seek happiness. If you seek to be unhappy, well, then we say there's something wrong with you. But even for some people, their misery is their happiness. But we say they have a mental disorder. We do. Okay, but no one desires to be unhappy. We all do things to make us happy. Everything that we do. Because happiness is the ultimate good that we seek. We do not act against the good. So we believe that every act that we are doing is that which brings us the good to make us happy. And for Aristotle, you cannot pronounce yourself happy until you are dead. Because you can only be happy at the end of your life when you have fulfilled the goal of living a fully human life. Others may pronounce you, do other things, but life, one can only say with authenticity, I have lived a good, human, happy life at the end. But at the end, you're also at the end. Now, Aquinas says, knowledge begins in the senses. We all seek to be happy. There are real goods, apparent goods, all of this kind of stuff. I'm there. I'm there. Also, all of our human acts are directed towards an end, a goal. The goal is to be happy. But here's where he gets his Christian Catholicism into it. He says, this is Aquinas, there are proximate ends, and there is one ultimate end, and this ultimate end, which is the supreme end, which all of these others seek, is beatific vision. It is the beatific vision. That's the ultimate supreme end, is the beatific vision. It is to dwell in the mind of God. It's the beatific vision, beatific, happy, blessed, blessedness, ultimate blessing. You cannot be ultimately, because God is the ultimate end towards which we seek. I mean, this is not, this is what we seek. All of these other ends, all of these other goals, see these proximate ends, These proximate ends are really means. They're really means to the ultimate end. Therefore, let's say you are faced with a decision that you have to make. And it's not about what toothpaste you want, but it's a significant decision. You have to ask yourself one very, very, very important question. It's the big question, the ultimate question. Does this decision I'm making bring you closer to God or away from God? That's it. That's it. And look, don't go read from some book. It's not there. That's where you meet with your God and your conscience. And that's what you do. Does this decision I'm making now bring me closer or further away from God? Huh? That's your bottom line. Does this person bring me closer to God or away from God? Does this activity bring me closer or further away from God? And if it brings me further away, it's something that's corrupting me and disfiguring me and something I should not do. If it is bringing me closer to God, then that is something that I should advance. Should I have this friendship with this person? When I'm with this person, does this person bring me closer to God or away from God? I don't know. I have no idea, obviously. But you have to ask it. Some people don't do that. Oh, they're fun, they're happy, they this and that. Does it make you a better Catholic, a better Christian? Does it make you a better human being? Does it make you a better father, husband, better wife? I don't know. Does this activity at work with this particular group or this person, does it make me a better employee in terms of justice? I'm getting a fair salary at a fair work. Am I giving it? Or when I'm get with this group, am I just engaged in gossip, tearing down the business, the boss, talking about this one and that one, polluting the environment? And it only happens when I'm around those people. Well, you can't afford to be around those people. Sorry, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Fine, then ruin your soul. That's fine. Hey, have at it. There's certain people that are toxic. I don't want to be around them. And don't tell me it's the Christian thing to do and all that. It's the most unchristian thing for you to do. It's the most unchristian thing for you to do. There are certain people whom you can't be around. There's certain people, when they walk in the room, everybody gets depressed. They take all the air out of the room. They're always complaining. They always have a problem. Everything is bad. Nothing is right. And you know it. They walk in and I just goes, oh God, I hope she's not sitting next to me. You know, stuff like this. Then you have people who walk into a room and everybody comes alive. Everybody's there. Everybody's on all cylinders, etc. They just have that ability. Yeah. And they got some people who elevate you, and they got some people who bring you down to the dredges. You have to avoid them. And don't wrap yourself in all this Christian nonsense. But, you got to be nice to everybody. No, you don't. No, you don't. See? There are some people I'm too weak to be around. There's some people who are bad for me. I don't want anything to do with them. I can say a prayer for them if that's what you want to do. I hope they convert or this or that. Or I can't be around them. I can't. Maybe you can. Great. Go for it. And maybe you're the one God wants to help them convert and change. I don't know. Maybe that's it. But I'm not the one. I'm not the Messiah. If you got a Messiah complex and all of this kind of stuff, you're really dangerous. Because that job's already been taken. Thank you. So these are things you have to ask yourself. Does this activity, does this person, does this place bring me closer to God or further away? And how you honestly answer that and how you behave. There are certain people, I'm fine until I get around this group. Okay, avoid that group. Think about that group. Oh, well, I'm going to miss them. Yeah, but you know what? Eternity's a lot longer than missing this bunch of bums. You know, there's not a good payoff there. You know what I mean? No. Uh, I'm not talking about being ugly. I'm not talking about being judgmental, condemning. I'm not talking about any of that. I just can't be there. I can't be there. This is a group that somehow when I'm with, I feel closer to God. I'm this. That's the one you want. Jesus said, test the spirits. By your fruits you know them. What are the gifts of the Holy Spirit? Peace, compassion, uh, a serenity, a kindness, a mercy. Or am I always angry? Am I always bitter, flying off the handle, this and that when I'm around? Well, there's something wrong there. There's something wrong there. It's like there's something wrong if you have a fever or a toothache. The body's saying, hey, you got to take care of this. Something wrong. Well, there's certain people we're around. What do they tell you? What are your symptoms after being around them? You really enjoy that? Ooh, if you do, there's really something wrong with you. Because most people don't want that. We desire to be happy. Not always in a kind of vinegar state of mind. Everything is sour. Everything is bad. Nothing is good. My Lord, please. So for the ends, for the telos, everything is a means to reaching the end of a happy, fulfilled human life. And for Aquinas, participate in the beatific vision of God for all eternity. Does this happen? The end, the ultimate end, the true end, can never be a means. It must always be an end in itself, because if it becomes a mean, then it's no longer an end. I don't want to be happy in order to be happy. Doesn't make any sense. Happiness is the result of, as an end of my life in its fullness and completeness. And that will take place for Aquinas in the ultimate end, which is life with God. You see? So that's very, 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 very important. Let me just give you this, and then y'all can run away and catch the last quarter of the hockey. Huh? Well, everybody's watching it. My God. Jason. Huh?
Hot shower and a bed.
Okay. Well, see, that makes her happy.
That's right.
And that's a good.
Been a long day.
Tell me about it. Okay. On second thought, don't. We seek knowledge for three reasons. We seek knowledge for itself. Again, which is theoretical knowledge. It relates to the theoretical knowledge. And in itself, from the Latin theoria, which is contemplative, sometimes called the speculative, from speculum. That is, the word speculum from the Latin means mirror. You hold up an image of yourself, because speculative knowledge requires contemplation and reflection, which means you have to go into yourself to find out about this kind of knowledge. It has to do with you within yourself. It's not used for anything, etc. It's knowledge in itself. Second type is practical application. This involves acting and living. And again, this is ethics. Everything else is a means. So this is the practical. Ethics is a practical science. And the third is its application for making and improving the world, society, and oneself. That's the third kind of knowledge, the third kind of reason. I want to learn in order to be better, to improve myself in my sports skills, in my singing, in my comprehension, whatever it is. I want to improve my health, so I'm going to do such and such less, and I'm going to do more and more of this. Okay, so that's the application. The highest of these is the first one, of course, the theoretical, the contemplative. Then comes the second, which is the practical, because it has to do with the ends that you seek by what you do. What are the ends you're seeking? And the third is the application for improving and making things better, etc., in that particular degree. Our society today, of course, is hung up mainly on the terms of application as it relates to making me happy, making me fulfilled, and those kind of things. It's a kind of pragmatic, whatever works, whatever gets it done. The means justifies the end, all this kind of stuff. End justifies the means justifies the end, doesn't matter. Just as long as I get what I want, that kind of thing. So those are the these are the types of knowledge, preliminary knowledge, seeking of knowledge, and the reason. Truth, goodness, and beauty are the three reasons there. And those are the influences you can see of Plato on the theoretical, the practical, and the application is truth, goodness, and beauty correspond to knowledge for itself, material application, or the practical application, and then the application for making and improving the world around one, etc. So next time, what we will do, we will continue this and go into the question of substance, accident, and the four causes. And then we'll look at Aristotle's anthropology, his political philosophy, and a little more of his ethics, as we did with Plato, and contrast and compare them one to the other, as we did with this in terms of the kind of epistemology and overall thing that we did today. So we compared and contrasted them. Now we're delving into Aristotle. And you can see the differences yourself if you look them over. And you may want to look up the question of substance and accidents, potential and actual, and things like that, which I think you'll find at least then have some familiarity with what we'll talk about next time. And I think next time, if I'm not mistaken, we're meeting over in the school or something. Huh? Huh? I think we are, because they got to, when I think it's next week, huh? They got to get started with this preparing things for fish or something. Is this, when does that start? Some, I don't know. I can't keep up with it. Anyway, yeah. Oh, it has, maybe it has something to do, I don't know. I can't keep up with it all. But anyway, we'll just say for right now, we'll meet here unless otherwise told. But yeah, please. So anyway, all right. Let's end with a prayer, please. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Almighty and gracious God, we offer you glory, praise, and thanksgiving for your gift of this time together. May we open our whole being in the Holy Spirit to your word and your will, that each day we present to you at its end a day well lived for all that you have given us. Please bless us through this night. Grant us your blessings of rest and peace. Please protect our return home so that you give us a new day to be your will. We may grow to love you and know you more.